So you guys getting ready?
Yes.
You excited to move forward finally?
Yes, after like years.
Years, I know. It's been a long time coming. Your ovarian reserve still looks good. So to compare it from when I had seen you in 2019 to now, your antral follicle count, which is the number of potential eggs we see on ultrasound, is essentially the same. It was 18, now it's 17, but that's the same. Your AMH was previously 3.5. It is 2.1 now.
Okay.
But that assay is not perfect.
Okay.
So there can be some variability. And it's been almost 2 years and you've had surgery on your ovary in between.
Yeah.
The 2 is still, though, very reassuring. I want to see people at a 2 or above.
Okay.
Less than 1 could be a sign of diminished reserve, meaning that a woman may not respond well to the fertility drugs.
Okay.
So all of your ovarian reserve is very reassuring. So I would expect you to be a decent responder when we stimulate you.
Okay.
So that's all good news. The only other thing that we saw which is new from 2019, is evidence of polyps inside the cavity.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to be alarmed about. Mm-hmm. This is why we do the Sonos, because polyps are so common in women. Mm-hmm. And what happens, and especially in women with endometriosis, the polyps are a buildup of tissue. So this is your lining here, which is supposed to build up and then shed each month. If it grows kind of dysfunctional and it's not completely shed, you get these polyps. They're not cancerous or precancer. They're not going to cause you a problem, although they may contribute to having your periods be heavier. Mm-hmm. We do recommend removing the polyps before we put an embryo inside. Right. But that can be done easily without having to go do a laparoscopy again. Right. So you do not have to we do not have to go from above, but there's a procedure called a hysteroscopy. Mm-hmm. It's a transvaginal procedure, and what we do is we put a small scope into the uterus, and there's this little device that can grab the polyp and remove it. Now, the most common reason for an embryo not to implant is if the chromosomes are off. Mm-hmm. And when I say chromosomes, all of us should have 23 pairs of chromosomes. When sperm and egg come together and the DNA starts to divide, you can get a mistake in the DNA division. And if an embryo has an extra chromosome or is missing a chromosome, usually that's not compatible with life. Mm-hmm. So that embryo is just not going to implant, or it could implant but result in a miscarriage. Mm-hmm. We know that as the egg gets older, the likelihood of having chromosomally abnormal embryos goes up. At the age of 34, we'd expect about 40% of your embryos to be abnormal just by chance. Mm-hmm. Well, we can test that ahead of time if you want to. So if you've got 5 embryos, going back to my other example, before they're frozen, the lab can biopsy a few of the cells, and that can get sent for genetic testing to let us know which embryos are normal and which are abnormal. Mm. So if we send them off for testing and we find, okay, 3 out of the 5 have the right number of chromosomes, those are the ones we're going to select from. Right. And what that does is it increases the odds that you're going to get pregnant on the first transfer and stay pregnant. Yeah. So it can increase your chance of pregnancy from 50 to 55% up to about 60 to 65%. And it lowers your miscarriage rate. So it'll take your miscarriage rate from 15% to about 5%.
Okay. And what are your thoughts about transferring 2 embryos?
2 embryos?
Yeah.
So basically, especially if we have a chromosomally normal one, if we've got a good quality embryo from a woman under the age of 37, or we know the embryo is chromosomally normal, we do know that that embryo has its best chance of becoming a baby when it's transferred by itself. Okay. And I know it sounds kind of weird, but when you look at implantation rates, so meaning each individual embryo's chance of making it to a pregnancy, implantation rates are actually higher with single embryo transfers than double. Okay. And it's a little counterintuitive, but it's not additive when you put 2 embryos in. And there's actually competition between the embryos. Now, years past, we routinely put in 2 or 3 because, as I mentioned before, when we froze embryos, it lowered pregnancy rates. So we never wanted to do that. And IVF wasn't as successful. So we used to put in 2, 3, even 4 in certain circumstances. Those were in the wild days. But now that IVF is so much more successful and we can freeze embryos without lowering the quality, what we've seen is that you have your best chance, and each embryo is its best chance if it's transferred by itself.
Okay.
Now, that being said, there are times where we will transfer too. So if in older women, say, who have untested embryos, or if we've done 2 transfers, say, and we would expect 85 to 90% of couples to be pregnant within 2 embryo transfers. If you are not, well, that's when I start having the conversation as to, all right, something's lowering your pregnancy rates. If we can't tell what it is it appropriate at that point to put 2 in? So that's kind of how we judge it now. Well, I'm glad you're moving forward.
Me too.
Everything looks good, and we'll reconnect once we got your dates.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I think I'm excited. I'm more excited. I'm not scared at all, actually. I think I was scared and a little bit excited because I just was concerned with, like...
You worry about the needles?
No, I don't worry about no needles.
Where do you got to get them?
I think from what I've seen, either like back here, like right above your butt, or on your lower stomach.
You want me to do them? Or
you can, yeah.
I'm asking.
Do you think you can?
Hold on, I'm asking. What do you answer mine? Do you want to do them, or do you want me to?
I mean, I don't know. I haven't tried it yet. I won't know until I actually have the syringe in my hand.
Oh.
So I'll put a pin in that. People don't even see needles throughout their lifetime until they're getting a shot. Now all of a sudden they gotta like give their spouse, their wife, a shot.
It'd be easier giving somebody else a shot than me giving me a shot.
I've always been fearful of like, what if it doesn't go straight in? I always have these wild, like, scary thoughts of what if the needle breaks in the arm, or like it's just.
Break. Thanks for having.
It's like when people like stand at a balcony and they look over and it's like, what if I fell? Like, what if this railing breaks and I just fall over? Are you excited? Forget it. No, answer. Say it. Because you're always like, I'm good. I've always been wanting this. This is not nothing that's new to me. This is just part of life that I wanted. So I'm good. Like, that's the type of basic, generic answer you would give just to be.
That's not what I would give. That's what you would take. Like,
I hardly ever hear you say you're excited about anything. It's like when you're in the middle of it, you do things I can tell you're excited, but you're never like, I'm so excited.
I'm not really excited because we didn't do nothing yet. Like,
but it's about to start. The press is about to start.
Listen, about to start a game means nerves should be high. When you win the game is when you get happy. That's where I'm at with it. I'm not like anything. I'm just, hopeful, and we see where it goes. Like, I'll say this. When you have the procedure to put the embryo inside you, that might be when it starts. Like, right now, there's nothing happening.
You gotta get closer to it to be excited.
There's not really an excitement part for me right now. You can't add excitement. You can't.
Okay, so what are you feeling then? I'll ask that.
Like I said, hopeful. It's like, okay, that it could happen. But it's not excited. Like,
okay.
Because she talked about the double thing and how it's not better. Blah,
the double embryos.
Would you still want to do it?
No, I'm going to do whatever she recommends.
I know you're going to, but would you want to?
I mean, if she would have said, oh yeah, you can do 2, I don't see any issue with that, then I probably would still be considering it. Like, that wouldn't have flipped the switch for me to be like, okay, we're having twins. It would have just been like, okay, this is really an option for us. Because
I thought you were asking because you wanted it.
I want it to be an option. Like, it's like I would like it, but it's
when
also
people say stuff like that, you just know.
Well, because it's like what you were saying before. You're not excited until you're until you're really close. I don't really want to be like, I want, and be let down. So I'm just like cautiously thinking of things.
I think you should say what you want and
I don't know.
Because people aren't going to push for what you want if you never.
I mean, she said that she didn't say that she wouldn't do it.
And my bad. I wasn't even just thinking about this. I'm just thinking in general. But go ahead.
Well, yeah, but either way, she said she wouldn't do it. I think like her and like a lot of doctors out here, they want to give their patient a successful pregnancy, even if that means just putting one embryo in, you know, even though the mother might want two. So they rather do one and have you be happy versus two and it don't work. So, I mean, it's still not necessarily off the table, but I know where to kind of keep my mind at based off of her recommendations. So, I mean, but I'm sure if I came to her and was like, I really want to have twins, she would do it. She would just probably reiterate her concerns. Twins is like a fun and cool thing to do, and it would give us 2 kids at once, which is something we want anyway, but it's also twins. Like, it's a big deal. Okay, so we're going to end this here. I got to go use the bathroom, all that water I've been drinking.
Didn't have to say that either.
I can say what I want to say.
I know, you
this
just
is
be TMI.
our video. This is why I film alone.
You probably giving y'all all types of random stuff.
All right, bye.